Yo, what's up, family? So we back with another video today, and I pray that the Most High bless you with wisdom and understanding. So this research took me a while to understand because of the concept, and it was very new to me. So in order for me to understand, I had to ask a lot of questions and go deep. Now, as you guys can see, I have a document that I wrote down, and I actually generated this in Chat GPT in order for you guys to understand in a more simpler manner and organize. The title of today's video will be about awareness of existence. Now, the introduction is called The Invisible Landscape, and it talks about how humanity lives in a world that is only partial seen. Beyond our senses exist a vast realms of forces, entities, and threshold that shape experience and challenge. Now, within this video, we will be talking about the creations of God. So that includes humans, entities, forces, animals, and creatures, angels, and whatnot. Mystical Judaism teaches that awareness of this existence is not about fear, control, or worship, but understanding the architecture of reality itself. In this world, humans occupy a singular position. They alone carry full free will, moral responsibility, and the ability to choose actions that aligns with or deviate from divine will. All other beings, from angels to Shedim. Shedim is basically unseen entities and whatnot. It has whole branches to it, and if I go too deep into it, this video would be like 1 hour long. But anyways, Shedim occupies different ontological categories that define what they can and cannot do, ensuring that moral spiritual accountability remains. The word ontological, so the meaning of ontological is a nature of a being. This includes as behaviors, actions, the whole concept of what that being is, the nature that it holds. And as we know that humans hold free will, humans has to eat. So it's basically the whole existence of that creation, that being, that entity, that spirit, that race. That's the ontological meaning, the definition. That's what it is. The ontological means the nature of that being. And this is divided within categories. So when it means occupy different ontological, it is talking about different natures of these entities. And as we continue on, we read that they occupy different ontological categories that define what they can and cannot do. As I mentioned, it is their nature. It is what they can or cannot do, behaviors, what they, you know, ensuring that the moral and spiritual accountability remains human. What does that mean? So this right here is talking about how human has free will and accountability only remains upon human. So at the end of the day, when it comes to judgment and when it comes to the end of times and whatnot, only humans will be judged. So demons, angels, animals, and spirits, entities, these other creatures or existence of creations, they will not be judged. They have no accountability to take. Why? Because they don't have the free will that we have. Now, it's a bit confusing, especially when it comes to the way modern people, like us modern people, look at it within this generation. But within Judaism, it is completely different. The concept of free will and whatnot is way different, and we will dive deep within this video about this topic that will bring more clarity to all of us and remove the confusion. So within chapter 1, we could see that angels is servants of the divine will. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the word angels comes from Greek or Hebrew, one of them. They come from one of them. And the meaning of the word is actually messengers. And messengers is derived from messengers of God. So, as we could read within the Torah, the Bible, the Talmud, even the Quran and whatnot, we see that angels are actually messengers of God. They come to give and deliver a message. So that's the whole concept of angels. They are servants of the divine will. Angels are the archetype of the obedience in the unseen world. So they only have obedience to God. So us, we cannot tell an angel, hey, go do this, go do that. A spirit cannot come to an angel and say, hey, I summon you, invoke you to do this in my name or whatnot. It only comes as long as God gives his permission for this, like the angel to come. So when people are saying they work with angels, and people are saying they do this and that with angels, people should really be careful and ground themselves and have discernment onto what spirit they are bringing within their life and environment, because angels only have obedience to God. They don't have obedience to humans. We cannot command an angel to do this and that. They only listen to God and solely listen only to God. Like, they're only to God. And I need you guys to understand that, because within Christianity, we have a lot of concepts that talks about how angels have free will, they become fallen, and they inherit evil. This is not what Judaism talks about, and early texts of Christianity. Actually, Christianity within the early beginnings, so after Jesus or within the time of Jesus of or Yeshua, whatever you want to call him, he was actually teaching about how angels like follow the order and the will of the divine. But later on, when it came to Catholic and the Council of Nicaea and whatnot, they were basically having a debate on how to bring introduction onto people to explain how temptation works and the whole concept of creation on why we are being tested. And the conclusion that they came up to was actually to say that angels are fallen and they have free will. This goes against Christianity itself. The modern day Christianity is way out of line to the original. This is why it is important for you to do your research on this. But apart from this, let's continue on. As you can see, angels are created without free will. They cannot rebel, they act or they cannot act in independently. Their purpose is to carry out God's will flawlessly, executing divine commands across the cosmos. Figures such as Samael, or the symbolic Lucifer, which his name is actually Hillel bin Shachar, they are not evil forces, but functionaries that symbolize aspects of divine operation. So they are not evil. They are merely just doing what God told them to do. They are just following the order of God. They're not evil. They are not committing evil. They are just being allowed to do these acts as a form of test towards us humans that actually has free will. So at the end of the day, they're not evil. They are actually good. This is why you find that some Freemasons or certain occult people or whatnot organizations say that Lucifer isn't inheritedly evil, but rather just the divine will of God. But the only problem within their argument is that they don't explain or give context towards it. They don't explain that, hey, God allowed this to happen, this and that. They don't go deep. They just tell you, hey, Lucifer isn't evil. And that comes forward as, hey, this guy is a Satanism, he worships Satanism and whatnot, and actually perform evil acts. No, the word Lucifer is um morning star, so Lucifer itself is not Satan. Lucifer is actually Hillel ben Shachar, and he is just a divine order of God. He just follows the order of God. God told him to do this and that, and he does it. He was tasked with that, so he's not fallen. He's not fallen. He will not be judged at the end of the day. But again, all of this is within Judaism, the concept of Judaism, the belief system of Judaism. So for you to know, this is what Judaism talks about, and this is what they believe in. So within other aspects of institution, by institution I'm talking about religion, the concept would be different from what it currently is to Judaism. So if you follow another religion and you're taking this video to learn and research and become aware, just know that this is within the concept of Judaism itself. This is what they believe in, that Lucifer isn't evil, but he is a order of God, that God told them to do this, and that is his task, because angels cannot fall and do not have free will. So he is not primordial evil, but he is just an existence of order, to get that out of the way. So Hillel is not an evil force, but functionaries that symbolize aspect of divine operation, such as we mentioned, judgment, testing, and as I said, cosmic order. Where Christianity or folklore interprets Lucifer as a fallen, rebellious angel, Judaism understands this figure as a metaphorical. Now, yes, it is important to take certain concepts within Judaism itself as a metaphor, but Judaism also explained that it is a internal and an external force. So it can be a metaphor, but it can also be an existence of a creation. But I will leave that to you to research. So, a reflection of human pride or consequences of ethical imbalances. Angels may interact with the world indirectly, often in ways that test or challenge humans, but they always act as instruments of God's will, never as an autonomous agent. So they are not evil. They do not inherit evil. And you could also find this within the institution of Islam. Now, again, when I say institution, I'm talking about religion, because religion is a form of institution that brings the principle and understanding to us on what is what, this is that, and I'll go deep in another video. Chapter 2, Reactive Forces. Now, these are the other creations of existence that we will be talking about. And they're not completely demons, okay? They're not demons, is actually in modern way is evil. But when you say demons within Judaism, you are referring to Shedim, Ruḥot, Mazikin, and Beru'im. Excuse me. These are the reference that you're talking about when you talk about demons. So they are a reactive forces. They react. They don't have free will. They react. How does that work? Okay, beyond angels in Judaism describes various entities that are not moral agents. Like I said, by moral agents, it means they don't have free will, but reactive forces. Shedim, Ruḥot, Mazikim, and Beru'im Bein Hashmashot. So these are four forces. They are entities, spirits, demons, whatever you want to call them. Some could be malevolent. Some could be good, evil, righteous, pious, but they don't have inherently free will, but it's kind of partial. I'll get into that. So they exist as part of reality's architecture, but they do not choose, plan, or intend. Instead, they operate according to thresholds, environmental conditions, or divine orchestration. For instance, a Shedim may influence the variety of human experience or appear at a liminal moments. What is liminal? Liminal is basically when the veil is thin. So let's say you're walking within somewhere in the desert, and it's nighttime, and as we all know, nighttime is when forces become more sensitive. So that is a liminal moment right there, where they will appear, for example, but it never acts morally. It's an activity as a response, a reflection of the natural order, not a conscious decision. Beru'im Bein Hashmashot, beings created at twilight. So within the creation of the 7 days, if I'm not mistaken, on the sixth day, Bein Hashmosh Mashot, excuse me, was created at twilight. That's why they are liminal beings. They were created when the veil was thin. They symbolize liminal or unfinished aspects of existence and rarely, if ever, interact with humans directly. This framework preserves humans' responsibility. No actions of these entities can diminish the weight of moral choices. Like I said, they are a force that reflects based on actions. Now, I had to go and gather more information to be more specific on each of these creation, because of it would have been confusion if I didn't explain it. You know, you guys would have seen Shedim, Ruḥot, Mazikin, and Beru'im, but some people, in this case, they will either put them under the same category, which they kind of are, but they same time aren't. But as we could read here, Shedim, the definition of Shedims are entities sometimes described in the Talmud or later mystical texts. They occupy realms between human and spiritual forces. The word shed can also mean demon, but as I said, demon isn't inherently evil, but it's just a form of, hey, identification, like we identify this with that. It's the same when you identify races. They are humans, but to identify them, you say, hey, he or she is white or black or Asian, whatnot. But in Jewish mysticism, it does not imply that they are morally evil agency. Shedim, they don't eat, they don't drink. They are spiritual forces. They're not biological beings. If they were biological beings, then they would have reproductive organs. They will have all these human nature to them, where it will bring that contradiction because they are spiritual forces that do not have free will. But if they had these other natures of humans, then it wouldn't make them a biological being which have free will, but they don't have free will. They are reactive forces. They are not moral agents. They may be associated with danger, liminality, or threshold in the natural world. Their function and interaction is often by unexpected or unusual events. They can interact with humans indirectly by creating obstacles, coincidence, or thresholds, but they cannot choose to help or harm morally. They are just a cosmic order. They are a reactive energy. The way fire responds to kindle. If you put your hand above a fire, it reacts. Okay, and that reaction, what will happen? It will burn you. But if you grab a fire and you put it on a torch in order for you to let's say make light so you could see in the darkness, then you would say this is good. But if you put your hand above it, you would say this is bad. But was it the fire that harmed you, or was it you that harmed yourself? Because the fire is just reacting based on what you're doing. So if you put your hand above the fire and you're like, oh, the fire hurt me, you put your intention that you wanted to put your hand above the fire. The fire just react. The fire isn't really like fully conscious. Fire is an element. It's not even conscious. But in this case, I'm trying to basically explain how they function, how they interact. So if you put your hand above a fire, it will burn you. But if you grab it, put it on a stick to light a room, it will help you. So they are reactive. They don't have any free will. They just react. And no, you cannot harness them as a form of way of power or whatnot, because they do not have free will. So you cannot like summon them or call upon them or whatnot, because yeah, they just have reactive energy towards them. That's their whole nature. Ruḥot or Ruh. Do they eat or drink? No, they are spirit, or what you could consider wind. Not wind spirits, but they are just unseen. They are energy that flows. They are also not biological entities, like we explained with Shedim. If they were biological entities, they were capable of eating, drinking, and whatnot, and then they will have conscious reproductive organs, and then free will come to play. But they do not inherit any biology towards them. They're just energies. Why do they appear to consume in text, like, oh, they ate or felt satisfied or repelled? This is all symbolic. It is just spiritual alignment or imbalance, not a physical ingestion. So it could be used as a form of metaphor that, hey, the ruh is eating or whatnot, is a metaphor and depends on the context and who and what it is about. You should be able to discern what they're talking about within that metaphor. If not, go ask someone that has knowledge over that concept or that context that you're seeking. Ruḥot, or spirits, breath, of existence. The term literally means wind or spirit, reflecting the eternal and mobile nature. So they are not wind spirit, but they are unseen. They are spirit, they are breath, ruh. They are subtle, not non cooperable forces. They do not possess free will. They are neither inherently good nor evil. Their function and interaction towards us and environment and whatnot, they often appear at thresholds and transitional moments, which are crossroads or liminal states. Like I've explained, liminal states is basically when there is a portal, a gateway, or the veil is the veil is thin within that area, and they appear. Or they could also appear near life and death experience, where many people say, "Oh, I've seen this, I've seen that." You know, they reflect the alignment of imbalance of the environment, but they do not intentionally act on humans. Within Kabbalistic texts, Ruḥot sometimes represent divine qualities or energy flows, showing how God's order manifests in subtle ways. Mazikin means damagers or harmful forces within the language of Hebrew. They are often mentioned in the Talmud or explained for accidents, misfortune, or unexplained events. They are also reactive forces. They are not conscious moral agents. They cannot plan or intend to harm. Their activity is often tied to natural or spiritual imbalance. Mazikin are used to explain hazard, obstacles, and disturbance within the human life. In mystical texts, they are sometimes invoked metaphorically to teach about ethical vigilance. Humans must remain in order to prevent unbalancing reality. They are spiritual friction. If thresholds are crossed, they appear, otherwise, they remain dormant. Do they eat or drink? No, they do not eat and drink. They are harmful forces like spiritual friction or accidents. They do not require sustenance. They are reactive energies. Why would story suggest consumption then? Same thing as the Ruḥot. Okay, so it is a folk warning or charms may describe feeding a Mazikin with offerings to prevent harm. Again, this is a pragmatic human ritual, not literal biology. So let's say you go to a Buddha, you tell the Buddha, hey, I need protection, whatnot. You give it an offering, and it offers you. By the way, it helps you, it protects you. By the way, that is idolatry. Do not do that. You are committing idolatry. I will let you know if you ever give some sort of sacrifice, offerings, whatnot, gifts to an entity or to a statue or to whatnot, it is idolatry and you're committing a great sin. So, Beru'im Bein Hashmashot. Do they also drink and eat? No, they are liminal, symbolic, and ethereal. They exist at twilight thresholds and purely functional and spiritual narrative. So, liminal, again, is when the threshold is thin. I also want to say that Beru'im Bin Hashmashot, they actually are I think on the sixth or seventh creation they were created in the twilight, so they are more of a liminal being than a spirit. If you could understand what I'm saying, we will get into it. As you can see here, they exist within twilight threshold and purely function in spiritual narrative. Why does some legends imply that they consume and whatnot? Again, it is morely symbolic, restoring cosmic or spiritual order. So they don't really consume. The definition of it, like literally means, like I said, twilight, created those created at twilight, twilight beings. They are liminal, in between spaces. So they are both one leg in the human world, one leg in the spirit world, you could say. They are eternal transitional forces. They do not have free will or moral agency. They are morally symbolic, but they could also exist within the external, but that's very rare. And they create margins of creation, moments of ambiguity. These beings often appear temporarily at thresholds, like I said. Their appearance is indicating limitedly than interacting with humans. They serve spiritual metaphors and Kabbalah, boundaries between order, light, chaos, dark, and unknown. Summary. In order for you to understand what I've basically explained in short term, Shedim, do they have free will? No. Ruḥot also, Mazikin, Beru'im Bein Hashmashot. Moral agency, no, 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 no. Functional interaction, reactive forces, and threshold obstacle, not intentional because they are reactive forces. Ruḥot is more of ruh, breath, wind. They are not wind spirit, but they reflect divine alignment, appears in transitions. Mazikin are hazard or disruptive forces, consequences of imbalance. They are also reactive spirits. Also, Mazikin also appears to you, not literal sense as appear in like you could see them, but they come to you or cause imbalances when there's addictions or when there is harm. So sin is what opens door to them as well. So they are more of not, again, they're not evil, but what your actions do, which is consider evil, which is sin and whatnot, they would appear to you. And that is the imbalance that is currently talking about. So they are reactive forces again. So they come when there's imbalances like addiction, sin, and whatnot. Beru'im Bein Hashmashot are liminal or twilight beings. They are symbolic, exist as boundaries, reactive only. So all of these are reactive spirits. So they react to you when your action is bad or good. So they do not have conscious. They somewhat have conscious, but they're not in the free will conscious. That's, they have a different branch of consciousness. Because they still have to do the will of God. So yeah. Okay, chapter 3, the Dybbuk, a human soul in transition. So, a Dybbuk is someone that occupies a unique space in Jewish mysticism. It is a displaced human soul. So, this soul either did not continue on to the next life, but it was stuck there. It was stuck because either why there was depth that the spirit, like the human, didn't like fix, or there are sins that it didn't confess, or there's a lot of things that plays a role to a human that is still in transition, and often they are attached to a living person due to, like I said, unresolved deeds, trauma, attachment. And no, they are not like Shedim or angels. A Dybbuk has free will but is constrained by its host. So some Dybbuk could somewhat partially possess a human body, or they will appear to you as a form of, hey, I need help and whatnot. Some can be evil because they still have free will, because they're still human. They're just in they are just in a soul transition. They're not in a physical form. They do not have three dimension body, but they still have free will. So they are somewhat evil and somewhat good, depending on the soul, but they are unable to act fully independently. The present requires more repair, ritual, and restoration of balance. So, like I said, imbalances comes due to sin, addictions, and whatnot. The Dybbuk teaches humans the consequences of moral incompletions, emphasizing the importance of ethical alignment and spiritual responsibility. Interaction with a Dybbuk is not mystical play, like, oh yeah, I'm chosen. No, it is not about that. It is more about recognition of unfinished moral business demanding resolution. So if a Dybbuk comes to you, it is more of a, hey, I need help. This is unresolved. I'm in debt. I didn't pay it. And sin, trauma, it basically needs help. Some of them could be inherently evil, some of them good, but it depends on that soul. And know when one appears to you is not, oh, I am chosen by the heavens. You just happen to be there. So it could also be a coincidence, or it could also be them just looking for help or whatnot. My favorite part, what we are. So humans, we all know humans comes from the word Adamu. Adamu means from the dust, the earth, mankind. It has a lot of meanings, humans. And yeah, we have free will, as we all know. Humans are the only beings within this framework with true moral agency, free will, choices, and accountability. That's the central Jewish mysticism, because without challenge, virtue becomes meaningless. Test trials and thresholds are built into reality, not as traps or temptations, but as opportunities to manifest character, courage, ethical discernment, and the Yetzer Hara. What is Yetzer Hara? Yetzer Hara, think about it as some form of whispers. But the whispers is more internal inclination towards misalignment or selfish desires. This represent the internal adversary, which most people call the ego. So the internal adversary is what they call the ego. The in Arabic they say nafs. Um, so the ego is focused more on the desire, human pleasure. So this is what the Yisr Hara is. It's not a demon coming to you and tempting you, but it's more internal inclination towards misalignment, selfish desire. It's the ego. It's what people call the ego. It is not a external demon. It is a human tendency that must be recognized, restrained, and transformed. Angels and reactive forces like the Mysticism, Shedim, and whatnot are thresholds that shape circumstances, but humans alone bear the accountability of navigating them ethically. So, in here, it is talking about the free will. So, as we said, angels and reactive forces are thresholds that shape circumstances. They react towards that environment and they shape it. They come based on what you do. So, they react on what you do. But humans alone bear the responsibility. What is that? Responsibility of what? Responsibility of the free will. Simple as that. The insight when it comes to Islamic gems. Why did I add this? Why? Why? Okay. So the main reason I add this is to bring the understanding that spiritual forces within Judaism is not the same as Islamic, because you have a lot of people that compare the two alike, that they say jinns and shadim and whatnot are the same. They no, no, no. The whole reason why I made this video was to bring awareness and understanding onto why that is that shadims do not have free will and the other entities do not have free will, and they're not alike jinns, because a lot of people misinterpret this a lot. That's why I added this topic, in order to understand that they are two different concepts within the theology of Islam and the theology of Judaism. So within the Islamic Judaism, jinns are introduced as a moral species endued with free will. They are consciousness. They have conscious. Shadim and the other ones, the other reactive forces, they also have conscious, but it's partial. But jinns has more conscious. They're more conscious because they have free will. They have that biology within them where they could eat, drink, and have reproductive organs, and they could reproduce, and not reproductive organs in the sense of a human genital, but more as in the spiritual sense, however God created them to be. Jinn can form societies, follow law, and are accountable for their actions. Unlike Jewish Shedim, they can intentionally whisper, tempt, or guide, and are judged for their choices. Within Islam, the narrative of moral beings is extended beyond humanity, creating a system where supernatural entities can actively interact and shape human experiences. Jewish mysticism, in contrast, reversed moral agency for humans and solely alone for humans. Remember that. Interpreting all other spiritual existence as reactive, symbolic, or functional. So within the Judaism mysticism, spiritual entities, like I said, are reactive, but within Islam, jinns are mostly fully aware, conscious, and they're not partial conscious, they're fully conscious because they have free will. They could develop tribal system, law, order. They could rebel. They can actually perform the same task as humans, but more in the unseen and spiritual form. So now that we understand that shadim and jinns are not the same, they have their own categories. It brings clarity for all of us. Now, the myth, the symbol, and danger. Mystical texts like Zohar embedded with forces and entities within symbolic structures. Myth serve as a language to describe complex spiritual truths, imbalances, thresholds, ethical dynamics. It is powerful because it conveys deep truths into it intuitively, but dangerous if taken literally. That's why it is a myth. It's a metaphor. It should not be taken literally, as in the sense of, hey, a ruh just ate this and it just drink that and it pooped that. That's a metaphor. It is very dangerous if symbolism and myth can is taken literally. So, misreading myth as a historical fact or invoking spirit for aid risk misattributing responsibility. Seeking external control or fostering fear, Judaism insists that humans must confront reality directly, understand thresholds and test, and rely on internal guidance rather than external supernatural intervention. Do not forget, if you seek external control or seek to invoke or command a spirit or bring offerings or pray towards a spirit, you are committing idolatry. That's why it is important to take most stories, not all, but most, as not literal, not literally, but more as in the sense of a myth or symbolic, you know, metaphors. It is used to explain in parables. They're parables. They're not full on. How can I say this? I don't want to say fake, but at the same time, I want to say they are not very within existence itself. It didn't happen. It happened, but it happened more onto the mental plane. If you can understand what I'm saying. Divine testing. Why does God allows challenge? Yeah, so Lucifer isn't really an evil force. Then why is this allowed? Why are Shedim allowed to do this? Why? I know you have these questions. Why? Okay, here's why. Within the unseen world and reactive forces, it exists to preserve humans' moral freedom because we have free will. We came here to be tested. Challenges are not traps or malicious acts. Some people are like, God is an evil God because God allows this. No, 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 no. God has no malicious acts towards us. There are conditions under which choices gain significance. Angels may test, thresholds may lift, and forces may react. But God's intention is not to punish, but to allow human exercise, judgment, courage, ethical discernment without friction. Free will would be meaningless because we are given the free will to act on good, to act on evil, to do this, to do that. But if we're not being tested, what's the purpose of free will then? We just do perform evil and whatnot and just enjoy the pleasure of the earth. It contradicts a whole many things. It contradicts the whole concept of human because the whole reason God created us was to put us upon this world in order for us to be tested so we could go to the next life or we could be stuck as a Dybbuk or we it depends on the actions and the intentions that we have. This is why we were created. We were created as a test, to be tested, to see if we go to Gehenna or go to heaven or whatnot. This is the whole reason why we were created. Because people are like, oh, if God is all knowing, then why would God make us go through all of this? Shouldn't we just have a direct judgment day? No, 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 no. Because if we have a direct judgment day, right? And God says, I foresaw you do this and that, you're gonna say, but you never gave me the chance, the choice to act on it. So I didn't really do it because you say I did it, but I haven't done that action. So how can you say I did it? I understand you're forever knowing and you foresee all things, but I haven't committed that act yet. So how is it possible that I get to go to hell? So this is why test comes. This is why um we are the only ones that have free will, because angels do not have free will. They are there just to test, bring tests to us. Because if we tell God that, yeah, this and this and this, but you haven't done it, then what's the reaction? It's a contradiction. This is why it is important to come towards these type of research, these teachings, open-minded. Because if you come towards it as in the form of debate, fighting, you will never learn. Your heart is not open to learn. This is why free will exists, and this is why we are tested, and this is why God doesn't instantly within the day of judgment because you haven't commit that act yet. He saw you commit that act. God saw you, but you would say to God, I haven't committed that yet. So how can you say I did that? It's not that God isn't all knowing. He is, but God knows best. That's why He allows these tests to happen. So back to what we were saying. The intention is not to punish, but allow humans to exercise judgment, courage, and ethical discernment without friction. Free will will be meaningless. Humans grow, learn, and earn righteousness precisely because the world is not frictionless, but is a reactive forces surrounding them that reflect rather than direct. It is a divine order. Conclusion. This is what we were talking about. It's a short summary. The awareness as responsibility. Awareness of existence is awareness of the moral architecture of reality. Reactive forces, angels, Dybbuks, and symbolic thresholds all plays a role, but humans remain the ultimate moral center. Oh, we are the main characters. I know that's what you think, but it is more than that. It goes deeper, and I will not talk about that within this video, but we will go in another video with this, God willing. Not acting acts independently to replace, guide, or oppose them, but recognition of the structure cultivates humility, ethical responsibility, which the ethical responsibility in this case is our free will to see what we will do with it. This is why some people are born rich and some people are born poor. Some people are born poor to see if you will go and rob someone, rob a store, or you will go pray to God, trust God, and follow the order of God and let God give you provision, let God give you sustenance. This is why it was made. The system was made. Some people are born poor, or some people are born handicapped to see if they're able to be grateful that they still have a chance, you know? Because also a handicap is a form of protection. Why is it a form of protection? Someone that's blinded, for example, and cannot see. The reason why God would allow this person to be blinded on the way or born blind is because of the acts that he would have commit if he or she was not blind. That person would have been a very lustful person, maybe. So, in order to protect that person, because God loved that person so much, God allowed that person to be blind. And this is the same thing when it comes to rich people. Rich people are a test. It's a test. They are rich because God wants to see what they will do with that money. Will you provide for the poor, help the widows? Would you provide for those who has no father or mother? Would you the children? Would you give money to the school that doesn't have the right materials for the children? What would you do with that money? That's the reason why some people are born rich and poor, handicapped or not. It's a test because we have free will and God wants to see what we will do with free will because he already knows, but it is important, as I mentioned. That's why God won't go do the judgment day in an instant. It has to be built. It has to cultivate. It has to walk into the story so we could commit that act. So God could show us, hey, this is the evidence. It was written within the books what you did. Here is the display of it. Here is it. Here's the evidence. You have done that. Why did you do that? You know, it's all a test. It's all a test. So it's not out of pleasure. It's not out of malicious act. It's all a test. So this is why these forces react. This is why angels are given the task to test, because it's the whole concept of the human nature is to be tested, to see if we go to the next life, get stuck to here, Jahannam, Jannah, heaven, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, um, it's a part of challenge of the design of God. It is not a hazard, a arbitrary hazard. It is not that. It is a dignity of human life that lies precisely in the capacity to act, choose, and grow in the context of a world that responds and react. It tests and reflects the consequences of decision. Awareness is not fear. It is a comprehension, responsibility, and alignment with the divine will. Okay, here we go. So entities, humans are the central actors in the humble way. We're the main characters in the humble way. Not that we're better and that, because yeah, we have free will, and they're more agency. They have full responsibility, full moral responsibility, and they're tested by God. Angel have no free will. They are not moral agency. They execute God's will and sometimes test. Humans, they are symbolic of divine functions. They cannot rebel. Shedim has no free will, no moral agency. They are thresholds, no intention, no moral actions. They reflect. They are reactive forces, response to environment. They Ruḥot also the same way. Free will, no. Moral agency, no. Reactive forces that reflects the and response to environment or thresholds, yes. They have no. They are spirits of existence that reflects. There are liminal forces. There's no planning or independent actions. They are partially conscious. Mazikin, do they have free will? No. Moral agency? No. But they are harmful or neutral forces that are reactive. They reflect. They are they symbolize chaos or imbalance to to us. They bring imbalances because of sin and whatnot. There are no ethical agency. Beru'im Bein Hashmashot, they also have no free will. They are also moral agencies. They are beings created at twilight. Liminal symbolic may appear new thresholds, and they're only reactive. They reflect. Dybbuks, they do have free will because they're the human soul. And yes, they are constrained. They are moral agencies. Displaced human souls attached to the host requires ethical repair, constrained by attachment. And the thing about Dybbuk, what some people don't understand that is Dybbuk actually they do not only attach to the human, but they attach to a house, for example. Maybe that person died in that house. Maybe they're attached to a temple because they love the temple. It's things like this. Some Dybbuk cannot let go of the earth. They stay here. They are attached to the money. It brings them good. They don't want to go to the next life. They're not ready. That's why some of them come to us and or appear to us or are shown to us in order for us to help them. But then some of them are still evil. Let's not forget they're still human souls. They have free will. They're not a reflective forces. They are attached to the host. They require ethical repair, constrained by attachment, but it's only temporary. They do not stay forever like that. They do not stay. Maybe this Dybbuk could stay 100 to 1,000 years there, but eventually it comes to the time where they have to let go, and they will let go because at the end of the day, nothing stays forever. We are not eternal forces. We could still be erased. God could still erase us. And within Islam, as we say, jinns has free will. They are more agencies. They can act, choose, whisper, help, harm, have biology and social structure, judge, or actions. So jinns are not the same as Shedim, Ruḥot, Mazikin, and Beru'im Bein Hashmashot. Basically, this is the reason why I've made this video. I made this video for understanding concept of what is the awareness of existence. It is important for us to know this. Why? Because it brings clarity. It doesn't bring confusion, discussion, debate, and it also makes you aware on what is done, what cannot be done, what is possible and what is not possible. It is very important to know these type of things and study these type of things. Because if one does not study it, one will not comprehend or understand it. You will debate and fight, your heart will remain closed and you will not grow. You will not elevate within the spiritual ranks. You will stay stuck to that spiritual rank. And the pattern will keep on repeating. The pattern will repeat. It becomes a pattern. It becomes something that doesn't have a breakthrough. You do not break through from it because you do not understand it. Your heart is not open, so your heart is closed. So then you will continue this forever and ever. And then you need to come again to this life in order for you to learn to let this go and come to an open mind, come to an open heart for the sake of God, for the sake of Hashem. It is important to know that these type of topics is sensitive to a lot of people because they do not understand it. They don't want to understand it. And that is very harmful, because when you pass out from this life, it's either you come back to relearn this or you continue to the next one. It all depends on the will of Hashem. But glory to Hashem that if you watch this video, you learn, you grow, and you understand the concept of this video, and you can keep on passing and elevate to the spiritual ranks in order for you not to be a Dybbuk. Because in my opinion, a Dybbuk is something that is not very pleasant to be, because you're stuck here, you're attached, and we didn't come here to be attached. We came here to learn, grow. And yes, some things are allowed, some things are allowed to be done, but not all things should we attach to, because some things could harm us. And pleasures are allowed at a certain extent according to the divine will, but that doesn't mean that you should attach yourself, because we need to understand that there's a life hereafter. There's a life that continues. We will not stay, we will not come back here. Some of us may, by the will of Hashem. It depends what they have to learn, grow, or what they have to do upon this realm. So that's why I made this video, in order to understand and bring awareness. May Hashem bless you and give you understanding and wisdom upon this. May you adhere to this. May you act upon this. May you also tell others about this in order to make them aware. Not go on to them as a form of a prideful manner. Hey, I know this and you don't. But become a teacher and they become a student, because everyone here is a student and a teacher. There are things you could teach me and I could teach you. So this is why we learn and we grow. Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Have a nice day.